Nico back this week?
Yeah, I mean, I know he's been grinding. I don't know if there's been someone that works their tail off quietly as much as Nico Collins does, just endlessly behind the scenes, putting in the hours, putting in the work. I know he really wanted to go last week. He gave it all he had, couldn't quite make it, and I know he's doing the same this week. And if he's there, we'll be as excited as you could be.
From a play calling standpoint, how much does that help you to have that kind of weapon, that bigger receiver who can run the way he does down the field?
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good player. You know, he changes, I'm sure, how defenses have to look at what they want to do coverage scheme-wise and how they want to handle them with a person, with a certain wrinkle in coverage, how they want to handle the box. I mean, he changes a lot of things anytime you have a really good player. You know, guys got to account for that. But then additionally, I think it more so just helps us. It's just another guy that has the quarterback's trust, like an immense amount of trust, an immense amount of reps, a rapport with each other. And in the run game, you know, it's really the same. The amount of time and work and physicality he's put into the run game obviously plays a huge factor as well. So anytime you can get a player like that back, you're always excited.
What went into the inefficiencies in the second half of the Lions game? Yeah,
I mean, I would say really generally, I mean, I think we all know in the second half, for probably the last 5 weeks or so, we've struggled, and it's one of those things when you look at. I mean, I think we haven't scored a touchdown like 19 straight second half possessions, and honestly, like our approach is football, and what I mean when I say that is when we dissect it, because we've known about it for 3, 4, or 5 weeks now. When you really dive in and you're like, okay, what's going on? Is something off with the play calls? Are they doing something different? Are we doing something different? What's happening? It's football. Like, it's the exact same as it was in the first half. We're not operating and executing the same. And that's kind of been something that we've been going back and forth on as an offense, really for a couple of weeks now. And ultimately, I think it's one of those things where you keep doing the same thing and you're operating the same way, things aren't working out in your favor. And then even though there may not be necessarily a mental roadblock, it becomes a mental roadblock. And that's kind of what we're working through. And I think we're all in the right space and have the right intent in what we're going to do when we come out in the second half going forward and be on the same page.
You take that personal?
I mean, yeah, you always, anytime you're not successful, I think that's anybody. You know what I mean? I know the players do. When you're not successful and you know you can be, you know you can be better. I know I could be better. That's always something you strive to improve.
How did you all as a staff go about approaching this week coming off what happened last?
I mean, truthfully, no different. You know, it's like I've said before, the NFL, there's a lot of ups and downs, and the name of the game in the NFL and with how long the season is how consistent can you stay in your standard. So for us, it really hasn't changed much at all. I mean, you always talk about what happened. You talk about what went wrong. You talk about what went well. And really you endlessly try to tie in over and over again to we need at every given moment to play at our standard so that at the end of the year we're playing that more consistent than anyone else, and that's usually going to be the team that's standing at the end.
Like you said, you haven't changed. Do you think maybe y'all should change what you've been doing offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I say we haven't changed big picture. There's been changes. I can assure you of that. But there's been you're always making subtle adjustments. I mean, you're talking through the week. You're talking in game. You're talking what we do at halftime. Like, I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things.
Why should people believe that Bobby Slowick is the guy that's going to get this offense back on track?
Well, I think it really starts with, I mean, for me and where I'm at is always starts with the organization. You know, I think from there it's really the players. Do the players believe in what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we can go operate and execute? Does the staff, does everyone else in the organization believe in what we're doing, what we're putting out there, how we're constructing the offense, and how we're trying to go about what we're doing with the offense? And, I mean, honestly, from there, you play with the standard that you believe in and eventually you go get it done.
How much does some of the challenges with protection up front change just kind of everything else. What you recall, what happens, and did last week's move, you guys made some changes on the O-line. Second week of that, how much is that going to make a difference?
Yeah, I thought last week, I mean, we had a couple, and they were critical errors in protection, but by and large, we were on what we were doing. We executed, I mean, the calls and guys up front in protection did their job very well by and large. So that was good to see that step. But there's a lot that goes into it, right? I mean, you're talking just from doing what the call says to then executing your technique to then blocking elite pass rushers like we'll face this week and all the wrinkles that go along with that. And that's also combined with, okay, well, you can't just drop back and protect every snap, you know. So then what are the offsets? How do we help out on the in-betweens? And, I mean, there's always a lot that goes into that. I thought we took a huge step last game in protection compared to what we had put out there the previous couple weeks. I also think we took a step back in the run game, you know. So now we just got to keep forward in both regards. I mean, I would say for us, that was probably the worst run game we've had since Joe has been really running and back there that you know, again, I go back to our standard and what we want to put out there. We're a good running offense when we do it to the best of our capabilities, and we're also a good pass offense, and we just got to get everything clicking.
CJ making decisions as fast as maybe he did last year. I know you guys don't like to talk about last year, but it seems like maybe, and he even mentioned it after the Jets game, trying to do too much with the ball sometimes, maybe not trusting what he's seeing. Is he making decisions as fast as maybe you want him to make with the football?
Yeah, I think CJ, honestly, I think he's doing a heck of a job. Like, I really do. I think he's taken his game from last year, and I think he's grown even more. And there's always this process that you go through. You know, you roll out there as a young guy, you're just playing ball. You know, the center snaps you the ball, everything moves really fast. You're like, what's happening? I'm looking over here, let me throw it over here. And then all of a sudden the game starts slowing down a little bit, and you start to take in more information, and you still can also go just play ball. And then eventually the game slows down so much, you kind of start to see everything that's going on. And the first time that starts to happen, it's almost information overload. You know, it's like, man, I see this, and this, but you still got to go execute your small responsibility within that. And then the hardest part of quarterback is at any given moment, with all that going on, you could play a spectacular game, and in the most critical third down of the game, you could make one mistake, and all of a sudden you played terribly because you threw an interception. You know, like there's just a lot of weight on that he does a phenomenal job embracing, taking ownership of. And I really think, like, he's gone through the process now where the game has slowed down for him, and he's been able to really recalibrate his rhythm. And I mean, for 2 weeks there, I mean, we had some issues where I don't even know if his back foot could hit, you know what I mean? So being able to still weather the storm when that happens, while also trying to operate in rhythm, like that's a massive challenge. Like, it hurts when you get hit, you know? So that's something I think he really has embraced. We all know it as an offense. We're doing everything we can to make sure he's as clean as possible, because when he's as clean as possible, he's going to get the ball out where we want it to go, when we want it to go there, and he will be aggressive when he does it, which is why he's so good.
You mentioned the mental hurdle that may be happening in the second half. How do you get past that, or how do you all plan to get past that when it does occur?
Yeah, I would say at this point, like, it's kind of beyond us, you know. We're just – I would probably say that was more of a thing, like something you talk about actively, or like, okay, this is a thing we got to work through the previous couple weeks. At this point, I mean, like, when we go do what we did in the first half, we'll be just fine. And truthfully, in the second half, we were closer than it seemed, like far closer than it seemed, and we had probably one mistake on any given play that happened to be at the critical spot. So, I mean, for us, it's ironing out. We can't have that happen. Like, we just one guy can't have a mistake on every play. We got to get that eliminated. We got to play more consistent football. I got to be more consistent as a play caller, and we just keep pressing forward.
I know that you and CJ, y'all are pretty much tied at the hip when you're game planning, as far as when you all are game planning, that's the offensive coordinator, the quarterback. But how much input does Gerard have in helping game planning, because he's one of the ones that's been around CJ for so long. He knows his tendencies. He knows, what could help take him to the next level. How much is Gerard Johnson involved in the play?
Yeah, really. I mean, honestly, just the way a staff is made up and how it works. Really, all the coaches have a pretty significant amount of input. Like we kind of work in, I guess you could call it pods for lack of a better term, but like everybody's kind of broken up in individual areas they have to look at, to study, to attack. And some of that's first, second down, some of that's third down, some of that's red zone, some of that's 2-minute, and all these other situations. And each coach within their individual area is really like my right-hand guy in that area and has direct input as we go through the week, has direct input in the game plan, has direct input in when we're calling, how we're calling. And ultimately it's up to me if that's what we're going to do or not. But, I mean, it's significantly a staff-driven thing really, really across the NFL. It's the only way. It's gotten so advanced schematically now that it's really the only way to feel like you can just have sound answers and be able to supplement the players with sound answers is nobody can do it as a one-man show.
I mean, yesterday CJ talked about a little bit of what you said earlier, how he wants to get back to just playing, just slinging it, not being careless. But have you seen that something in this week where he's kind of gotten back to his approach, his way, and not maybe dealing with being cumbersome with the information overload?
Yeah, I'd say more than anything this week, I've seen a guy that's extremely locked in. I feel like really like the whole offense. Almost feel like your back's against the wall mindset. Which when we go day to day with that kind of mindset, we usually operate pretty well. I would say he's very aware of. I mean, only CJ could tell you exactly what's going on in the inner workings and in his mind, but my guess is he just wants to get back to doing his small things, his details really well and owning that. And he's been doing that in practice. Like I said, I mean, it's the hardest position in sports. You have to play very, very aggressively if you want to be good, but you can't be reckless, and that's a hard balance to strike. And I think he's just doing everything he can to get that right balance. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, everybody.
Aaron, shall we?
What are some of the challenges that a wide receiver like him presents, and how good was it to see Derek Stingley out there practicing today?
Sort of yes to both. Yeah, he's a really good receiver. Obviously, one of the best in the league. I think probably the thing that makes him really special is that he's good at everything. Like he lines up everywhere, inside, outside. Underneath throws, like getting open on short intermediate stuff, like catch point, run after catch. Like they hand him off the ball in jet sweeps, put him in the backfield. He can do everything well. So that's the challenge defending a guy like this. Obviously, he's a good receiver, but the fact that he's good at a lot of things and really everywhere they put him and every way they try to use him and every part of the route tree. So huge challenge. And yeah, happy to have Sting back out of practice.
Challenging when you have a guy like veteran player like Jimmy coming back, and you also have Kalen. Who's really, haven't played similar roles this season, but Kalen is really kind of coming into his own. What's the challenge in balancing those two guys and making sure Kalen still has?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to put our guys in the best position to play, and yeah, Kalen's obviously proven that he's capable of making plays in this defense, and Jimmy with his history and experience, same thing. So I think this always like trying to kind of similar like to our D-line, like when we get everybody going, you know what I mean, just trying to pick the spots and the calls and the situations that we like this grouping together sort of thing. So I wouldn't look at it as like a zero-sum game, like, oh, one guy's going to lose snaps over this. I think we're trying to put all those guys, and Imari's done a really good job for us this year, and how we're utilizing some of those pieces. So, yeah, I would say our view is that getting Jimmy back enhances our defense and enhances what Kalen can do, because now we can kind of maybe utilize those guys in some different spots or jointly and stuff. So, yeah, no, excited to have all those guys back and getting all our players back out there going.
Hey, Matt, what is it? the challenge when you face an offense like Dallas, who on paper has struggled, but what they present? What are some of the big things that?
Yeah, man. I mean, they got one of the best receivers in the league. I mean, the system. Just watching it, the system's been the system, and they've operated at a pretty high level for a long time. Our challenge is what it always is about us, and us being in the right spots. And, it's a little different than some of the schemes we've been playing. Just some of the run schemes are a little different, a little more inside stuff. I mean, like the challenge in terms of like they're going to get, 4 hands on our inside pieces and try to move that way and stay heavy on blocks. Not as much the lateral stuff, things like that. So really it's kind of a good week for us to reset our technique and really just focusing on, hey, this is how we're going to play, and let's be good at what we're going to do, and try to finish it out. Sure.
When Daniil has a good game against a guy like Penei Sewell, one of the better guys at that spot, and then you don't see a lot of guys like Penei Sewell on the schedule coming up.
You don't?
Do you ever expect like a little bit more attention for a guy like Daniil, especially with no Will? Like you have to kind of plan for them to try to take him out more?
Yeah, I mean, we feel good about Daniil matching up with anyone. I'll say that. He's a really good player. But we always have pitches of, okay, what if they do this in protection, whether it's for Will, Daniil, whoever. Danico's obviously started kind of coming on a little bit too, which helps. So when you have other answers at other spots, it's hard to dedicate too many resources to one guy. But yeah, that's our job. Like in game, like, hey, how are they doing? Are they sliding to him all the time? Are they chipping him? Dallas is a very big chip team. Like we're expecting our edges to get chipped a lot. So how do we put him in a position to combat that and to obviously do what he does well? So there's always, either structures in terms of how we align or where we move him to, or just pressures or patterns, rush patterns that we're doing to try to like combat anything. Teams, hopefully as we get going and our rush keeps generating some success, that teams are going to have to do stuff to combat that, and we have to have sort of counter answers to that. So sure, we always plan on that stuff. So I hope it keeps rushing well.
From a schedule standpoint, has this been kind of? I mean, I know y'all have routines and stuff, but you play on Thursday night, you play on Sunday night, and then you play on Monday night. Like, is that tough?
It is. We are creatures of habit. I'll say that. Like literally, you walk around here once it's Thursday. It's Thursday, and it just throws some of your rhythm off. But like that's part of the NFL. We know that, and I would say, and hopefully, we continue to be a competitive team. Last year was an anomaly, having a string of 12 o'clock games, and this is just part of the league, and so we've got to get used to it. I think it's been good for us to kind of go through, obviously, sort of the stretch in a row. Like it was a little unusual, but it's part of what we do. Yeah, brainwash yourself and keep telling myself it's Thursday.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, good.
Coach, I know that there are two different teams. I know the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys are two totally different teams. But
Sure.
the way that the Cowboys use CeeDee Lamb is the same way that Minnesota pretty much uses Justin Jefferson, as far as putting him in a slot, putting him on the outside, moving him around. Is there anything that you could take from that Minnesota game coming into this Dallas game? Because Dallas, it's a copycat league. They're going to probably try to find mismatches
Are they?
with CeeDee.
You talk to them? Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, whenever you play like an elite receiver like that, just having an understanding of how a team is trying to get them, just like we talked about Daniil, honestly, like, okay, we have plans to get Daniil off of protection issues. Like every offense is going to have a plan to get their star receiver, whoever that is, off of whatever kind of coverage you're trying to throw out there to combat. So yeah, obviously you go back and look at all the stuff we've done and what they've done and how, that's one of the reasons they do that. Obviously teams are have their radar up when CeeDee's moving around and where they're putting them. So I would say just in general, like we just, that's the kind of the cat and mouse back and forth that we play in terms of, okay, what's their answer to be, like, how are they going to utilize him and how are they going to try to get him off some of the stuff we're doing? And then do we have, again, counter pitches to that? So I'm not sure, like, I'll be honest with you, I haven't gone back and looked at our Minnesota game too much this week. But, yeah, there's always, like, sort of you have your thoughts of how to handle elite receivers, and then we've got to figure out what their answer to that's going to be and kind of play that game. Anyone? No, gee. Thank you. All right, guys.
Let's go. All right. That's no BS, but it used to be on the Nokia, and you know, like a do, like real, you know. So, man, I think they were just a brick, man. So that's hopefully that just shows like don't take the game for granted. Like this is gonna be so fun going against the legend John Fossil, Cavante Turpin. Like stakes couldn't be higher for the Texans. Like this is everything. Just so super excited for the opportunity. To them, dynamic kicking game unit. They've collected some unique characters from around the league that are really good freaking football players. We had Buddy Johnson here on our practice squad for a year in 2022. That guy's out there like knocking people to the ground. They got Hunter Lipke. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. A fullback he can run and scoot. They got 2 penetrators. Their leading tackler, Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell, flying down on kickoffs, making our lives, a living nightmare. So, we have really got to play ball. And again, it's going to start and stop with us neutralizing Cavante Turpin. So, again, Monday Night Football, super excited in Dallas, and we got to find a way to change the football game in the Texans' favor. So I'll take your questions.
What is it about him that's so different?
Yeah, some people glide across the grass. This dude steps like nobody else. I mean, it's not only like the stretch and cut. Marcus Jones from New England, he's real sudden and in and out of cuts. This guy can turn the corner while at full speed. Like that's a skill set in and of itself. So long speed is real, the ability to reverse field. And then you got a coach that's telling him, hey, like we're supporting you. Go bring that thing from 9 deep in the end zone. Like, we're gonna have our hands full. He can really run.
Earlier this year, I asked you a very dumb question about all the indoor stadiums being the same.
Okay.
But you mentioned this one's not the same as all the other ones because of the video screen. Is that a problem for Tommy?
I hope. I hope we're also punting from only the 50-yard line in, so we have good field position. That has happened before. I think just the wider the punt, the more you can net coverage corner. So hopefully we're putting that thing outside of the tick marks there and neutralizing Turpin with our coverage. That was me. Okay. Now we're off. Okay. And hopefully we can stay away from that thing anyways. But, yeah, that has happened before in game, and you just got to play it out. So.
I feel like happened at the 58. I know there was some talk about the snap being high. What was your sense from it?
Yeah, every time you walk onto the field and you're a specialist, you got to be like the precision is your job. So we got to be precise all the time. But I think just everything got to work for you. Everything's got to work for you, and that's why we go out and practice, and hopefully we get that opportunity again to knock it through. Okay? Monday Night Football. You guys good? See you there.